Motionless and White just put out their seventh studio album, Decades, in celebration of being in the musical business, making recordings for over 20 years. So not only are we going to take a look at this brand new album, we're going to rank it as where does it fit in the Motionless and White category? Is it the best? Is it the worst? Does it fall somewhere in between? Find out next. Welcome, metal enthusiasts, to another episode of The Metal Dude Abides. Tonight, we are going to take a look at Motionless and White, in particular, their brand new album, Decades. We're going to see what we think of this album, and we're also going to rank it amongst all the studio albums of Motionless and White. All 7 albums will be reviewed and ranked here today. Now, one of the interesting stories about Motionless and White when it comes to me personally is when my kids were born, we kind of moved away from metal, did a lot of classical music. But as my kids got older, they started picking up the heavy metal. And one of my daughter's absolute first and favorite bands is this one right here, Motionless and White. So when I heard that they were putting out a new album, I knew I had to do a ranking on them. And this one is dedicated to the Rin. Now we're going to start with the very worst and move all the way to the very best. So I guess the first question we're going to ask right off the bat, is the brand new album going to end up being the worst album in Motionless and White history? As you can tell by the graphic, no, the new album is not the worst album in the collection. The number 7 studio album, Scoring the End of the World, is a well-deserved last place. Now, the album starts off with a pretty good song, a fun song, Meltdown. I love this song. You know, Motionless and White, you're going to see this throughout this episode. They usually start off their albums with a real banger, and this is no exception. I find myself laughing hysterically because during this song they have kind of an interlude where there's a news reporter talking about, the end of the world. This is it. This is the end. And the news reporter says, on tonight's series finale, we're all gonna effing die. Makes me pop every time. Again, this is kind of a song that depicts our impending doom from our own stupidity, and it's all going to be televised, and these little snippets from the news reporter, just all of them are very funny. Now, Werewolf is also another very fun song. It has a little bit of an old snippet from Rockwell, where the famous song "Somebody's Watching Me" gets interluded in there. Really love this song. But after Meltdown and Werewolf, there's not really a lot on this album I like. If you squint real hard, Cyber Hex and Red, White, and Boom, they're all right. They kind of come in as deep tracks at the end of the album. But at the end of the day, it really does boil down to 2 really good songs on here. Now, I have my biases, and I like angry Chris. I like pissed off Chris. I like defiant Chris. But sometimes Chris, let's just say this. When you get an album from Chris, you know the kind of mental state he's in, you know the emotional things he's going through. And as this album clearly shows, this is after a bad breakup, and you get a little bit of the sad, remorseful Chris. So there's a couple of songs on here, Porcelain and Masterpiece, that, if you don't mind me saying, are a bit cringe. It's just not my style of Motionless and White song. Don't really care for them. Kind of drags the whole mood. After this fun start, we kind of get into the dramatics. Again, we're going to see in some of these other albums, we're going to see some angry, defiant Chris that's going to be much better. Anyway, enough about this album. It is clearly a tier below everything else. Not really a fan of this one. Have never really gone back and listened to it much since it came out. Coming in number 7, Scoring the End of the World. Coming in at number 6, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. Creatures is a very heavy, raw album that really starts to show the potential of Motionless in White. But there's, I think, a clear theme to this album as well. This album, I believe, shows one undeniable fact. Chris Motionless had a heck of a crush on Winona Ryder. Evidence? You want evidence? Here we go. First of all, there's the song We Only Come Out at Night that has a clip of Gary Oldman from the Dracula movie talking about the wolves and the beautiful music they make. For those of you who have never seen the movie, Dracula's love interest, Winona Ryder, number 1. Number 2, we have the song Abigail, kind of talking about witches and a lot of the persecution of women back in the day. Well, Winona Ryder starred in a movie called Crucible, which once again discussed all the witch hunting and what was going on back several centuries ago. And her character, you probably guessed by now, was named Abigail Williams. Coincidence? I think not. And finally, Scissors Hand, the song that ends the album, needs no explanation, I don't believe. This, of course, is a tribute to the song the movie Edward Scissorhands that starred Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder. So there's at least 3 direct references to movies that Winona Ryder was in. There possibly could be more. If you might be more aware of other songs on this album that have loose associations or very tight associations with Winona Ryder, put them in. I'm looking for these Winona Ryder Easter eggs. Anyway, let's talk about the music. There are several good songs on here. I just got through talking about Abigail. Really good song. Love that one. Maybe my favorite on the album. Undead Ahead, which is a tribute to the old Ichabod Crane Sleepy Hollow tale. Puppets, The First Snow. That is a very good song. As many of you know, we're going to talk about this throughout the series. There are 3 songs, Puppets. This is Puppets number 1. And I love the nod to Morrissey and the Smiths in this one. And finally, the final song on the album, Scissors Hands, a very good song. Overall, I think Creatures is an excellent album. Again, I didn't like the album number 7, but all the albums moving forward are albums I like. I do believe Motionless in White is going to improve on their craft. So while this is very heavy and very raw, it must come in at number 6, Creatures. Coming in at number 5, Disguise. The title track is how we start this one off. It just sets the pace for this bad boy with lots of energy, with lots of attitude. One of my favorite tracks. And I love the lyrics. Let me sum it up. I lost my way by hiding who I really was. And I think that's a common problem people have of trying to be someone that they're not and basically hiding their true selves. But finding your way out of that. Pretty inspirational song, pretty good. But then that theme continues with the following song, Headache, which is now the person battling his own demons, his own voices in his head that keep him from revealing who he is. The doubts that say, stay hid, don't put yourself out there. These 2 songs really work very well together. What a fantastic way to start the album. We also have a return to Sleepy Hollow, Undead Ahead 2. It has a real epic, haunting feel. One of the things I always joke about with Chris Motionless is sometimes he defies the rule that the original is always better than the sequel. This is one of those cases where I think Undead Ahead 2, I even like slightly better than the original. But one of the things I love about this album is the best is yet to come. A lot of really great songs on the back end of this album, including Another Life. This is one of those songs just that really highlights Chris's vocal prowess. We don't talk enough about Chris Motionless's voice. He is one of the most underrated singers in the modern metal movement. I saw these guys on their last tour in Red Rocks, Colorado. And Red Rocks is one of those wonderful amphitheaters. It's outside, has just perfect pitch acoustics with the rocks on the side. But if you can't sing, it'll also expose you pretty quickly. Chris Motionless got out there. I won't go through all the different bands that were there that night, but clearly Chris Motionless had the best and strongest voice of the bunch. Really, again, if you've never really thought, Chris is one of those who, has kind of a shocking visual, jarring appearance and style. So, but don't overlook his voice. Really good stuff there. Broadcasting from Beyond the Grave. I love the kind of old radio bit that they do here. Really sensational song. And Brand New Numb. Oh boy, do I love this song. One of the top 5 Motionless in White songs. Really has, again, such an infectious beat. Has such amazing attitude. This is chef's kiss perfection on Motionless in White. Listen, if the chorus of this song doesn't get you going, I just advise you to go see a doctor, because there might be something wrong with you. That's how great the song is. One of the lines that I always pop for. Do you need a receipt? Cha-ching, and the sound of that cash register hits. Makes me pop every time. One of the things I'll say, especially now that we've hit number 5, we're really getting into these next few albums are really closely bunched. All of these are excellent. Disguise is ranked number 5, but don't be fooled. This is an amazing album. Now, to be in this video, I said, we're going to go through the entire discography, but we're also going to talk about the new album. And here it is at number 4, Decades. Once again, the title track is how the album starts. The song Decades starts with Chris in full throat giving this defiant cry, "I'm still effing here." What a perfect start. One of the things that has always been troubling, and I think it shows up in a lot of the pissed off Chris songs, is that metalcore really gets a bad rap from the music critics. And I think Chris likes to really put the old middle finger to his critics, and he does so here beautifully. Decades is just this celebration of, despite all the doubters, despite all the critics, here he still is, making great music. Love this title track. Love the tone it sets for the whole album. One of the other songs on here that really caught my eye, R.I.P., featuring a person by the name of Skylar Grey. Never heard of Skylar Grey before. Apparently she is a pop artist, does some pretty cool stuff. But they do a duet together that is really awesome. It seems like in the last couple of years, last year in particular, just seems like duets have really become the vogue thing. I really like the creepy, haunty style of this. Kind of gave me that whole going back a few decades to Ozzy and Lita Ford. Really like this song as well. Fight Like Hell is another song on here, but oddly enough, it's in this album twice. Once here and once as a bonus track. For my own taste, I like the bonus track with Outlier a little bit better. In fact, a lot better. The bonus track's one of my favorites. So if you're debating, is it worth it to get the expanded edition? Do it, because they're the second version of Fight Like Hell, one of my favorite songs on the album. There's some really nice deep tracks in here. Blood-packed, heavy, ominous. Count Back from Zero has a great stompy riff. But here we go. I do love some people don't like cover songs. I personally love a good cover song, especially from a song, again, many decades ago. In this case, over 4 decades ago. I Wear My Sunglasses at Night. The old Corey Hart cover. I think Chris knocks it out of the park. Really sensational job on this one. And then, like I said, the bonus tracks on this album are both excellent. I like Hollywood quite a bit. And again, Fight Like Hell with Outlier, one of my favorite tracks on the album. So the new album, Go out and get it. If you're a Motionless in White fan, it may not be the best album they've ever made, but it is definitely amongst the best. A really solid effort. Really dig this. 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, wherever you want to place it. This album rocks. Brain fart alert. You know, when an album comes out, there's usually singles that come out prior to the release of the album. So last night, when the new Motionless in White album dropped, I was busy listening to all the new songs on there and putting down notes about what I liked about each song, this, that, and the other. And so I put my notes down and did my video while omitting my favorite song on the entire album because it was on a single that was released months ago. So it just didn't get in my notes. And I was sitting here going, I feel like I'm missing something. Only my favorite song on the entire album. So I thought I'd get back in here and let you know that the song Playing God is a duet with Chris Motionless and lead singer from Slipknot, Corey Taylor. And it is sensational. We talk about the fact that I love Chris Motionless when he's pissed off. And let me tell you, this time it is a doozy. Basically, he's talking about people on the internet spreading rumors and gossip and just to get clicks. And boy, does he let them have it. And I'm here for it. Love every minute of this song. So yes, Decades is number 4. And yes, I forgot to mention why it's rated so high, because that is my favorite song, Playing God. Had to come back in here and remedy that situation. Coming in at number 3, Infamous. I love the start of this album. The song Black Damask, The Fog. They have this kind of old-time sounding intro, kind of a light, almost old vaudevillian type of intro, and then it just starts ripping. And it sets the tone for what is an extremely heavy Motionless in White album. Creatures has a lot of rawness, but I do believe Infamous might be the heaviest album in the whole collection. Now there's a song on here called America. America. America just got through celebrating 250 years anniversary. Well, this song is a scathing look at America, and it might just be my favorite Motionless in White song. Really dig America. Just scathing political commentary on this one. I've always loved it. I think this is the song. Not only is it one of my favorite songs, but you know, they always say that when you first get into a band and that first favorite song, this is probably the first song I was really into Motionless in White. Might even be the first one I ever heard of theirs. So this one, you know, is not only great, but it also has that nostalgic factor of when I first found this band. Burnt at both ends. Oof, does this kind of America is a great song, but it's not necessarily fast. It's not necessarily intense. This goes back to that furious pace and the drumming. Beautiful. Puppets, we talked about this before. We talked about Puppets 1. Well, here we get to Puppets 2, The Rain. And another great, fantastic, heavy song. And I think I don't do a lot of this, you know, singling out members of the band, but I got to do a shout out to Angelo, wherever you are. What an amazing drummer. Of course, he was one of the founding members of Motionless. He's on the first 2 albums. But this album in particular, I think is one of the best. Well, I think it is the best drumming in the entirety of the Motionless catalog, which is why this album sounds so heavy, sounds so intense. Big part of that is Angelo. Some deep tracks you might be interested in. Synthetic Love, really good. But my favorite deep track is Underdog. And sometimes you see a song like this and it's got all the elements and you think, I wonder why this wasn't a big hit, right? Why hasn't this got into the lore of some of these others? America might be my favorite song. This is probably my second favorite. Love this song. And finally, once again, we talk about getting the bonus, the expanded editions, the bonus track that I really like here, Sick from the Melt. go out and get the deluxe edition. It's worth it just for this. Another really great song. It seems like whenever Chris puts some bonus tracks on an album, it's worth getting. Sometimes you get an album and they have bonus tracks and they're just kind of throwaways. Chris always puts a real banger in here. So well worth the extra money for the deluxe copy. Sick from the Melt is a banger. Coming in number 2, Graveyard Shift. True confessions, I hadn't listened to all of these Motionless White albums in quite some time, and especially hadn't kind of listened to them all in a grouping like this. And I have to be honest, just going by my memories and how much I like this album and how much I played particular albums, I kind of thought Graveyard Shift might take the number 1 spot. Kind of was expecting it. But it does wind up here at number 2. Obviously, we only have one left. You probably know what it is if you've been paying attention. But Graveyard Shift, one of my all-time favorites. Really close between this one and number 1. This one almost came through. Anyway, once again, Chris doesn't disappoint. We have the excellent starter Rats. Once again, Motionless and White always comes through on those openers. Now, this one's not necessarily a big, fast, heavy number, more like a groovy, catchy kind of number. Necessary Evil has a guest appearance by none other than Jonathan Davis from Korn. And it is kind of an interesting, because we've talked about there's little tributes here, there, and snippets of songs from way back. But I think, as far as I know, this song has the oldest kind of snippet parody. There's an old song by Leslie Gore that goes all the way back to 1963. It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want to. So Chris uses that, twists us a little bit, but I believe this is the oldest song reference in the Motionless and White catalog. Soft. This is maybe my favorite track on here. This is it. You know, the album's been going along, but this one, it finally hits. It's fast, it's furious, it's heavy. Love it to death. Now, I'm going to get to one of my other favorite songs on the album. Not My Type. Dead as F2. And once again, has Chris Motionless made a sequel that's better than the original? Because I have to say, Dead AF is one of my other favorite songs. But I think I'm going to give the edge to the sequel once again. And that's hard to do. Usually you get the best song, the best, and then everything after that's just kind of a watered down version of this. Not in this case. It is excellent. The next song I want to highlight here is Voices. Now, when I originally heard this album, it wasn't one of those songs that really jumped out at me. I liked it, but it was kind of a filler song. And then I heard Motionless do this song live. Again, talk about the musicianship, talk about the voice, talk about the stage presentation. Motionless in White puts on one heck of a show. I've seen them be the opening band, and then the headlining band comes in, and it's a yawn fest. They can't keep up. If you ever, Motionless is one of those, you got to be really brave to go on after these guys, because they put on a show. I always have been partial to the song Loud. It's really good advice. Sometimes if you want the world's attention, you got to say it loud. So they can hear you, right? 570 kind of goes back to the origin story of Motionless. And as I always say, all supervillains have to have an origin story. This happens to be Motionless in White's origin story. Eternally Yours. This is a huge hit. Seen them again many times in concert. Chris starts throwing those flowers out. The girls go crazy. But it's time I have a talk with all my dudes out there. Let me just say this. If you're a heterosexual dude, and Chris Motionless starts throwing out roses to the girls, this isn't like he's tossing out drumsticks or anything. These are for the girls. Stay out of the way. Drumsticks, guitar picks, We'll worry about that later, but the roses are for the girls. Just a little tip to all the fellas out there. Anyway, this is again, I thought this might be number one, but lo and behold, drum roll please, let's get to the very best Motionless in White album. Coming in at number one, it's the only one that's left, Reincarnate. Now I know when you set off to do a list like that, you usually have a pretty good idea of how everything's going to rate. But I have to admit, I was a little surprised that Reincarnate got all the way to number one. I just forgot how many great songs are on this album. Death March gets the album off to a great start. As with the title, a great marching song gets you going right off the bat. Reincarnate, another one of the all-time best Motionless in White songs. Again, Chris Motionless voice, tremendous on this one. Puppets 3, the grand finale. You start listening to this thing and you go, is that some new instrument? Are they messing with something on the keyboard? No, my friends, that's not an instrument. That's Danny Filth. Man, some of his tea whistles are just amazing. Really like this one. So we talked about this earlier. Which puppet song is the best? Because they're all three really good, but I think gradually each of the puppet songs is better. Puppets 1 is clearly my least favorite. All right, I think it's really between Puppets 2 and Puppets 3, but again, I think Puppets 3 just edges it out. And again, once again, when Chris makes a sequel, it's a good one. Unstoppable. What a nice, heavy, head-banging riff. Really like this one. Again, seen this performed in concert a lot. Once again, one of those songs that really shows off Chris's pipes. Love it to death. Very underrated song. I don't know if you could call this a deep track. I think it's, one of their bigger hits, but Unstoppable, really good. Contemptuous, another great song. Danny Filth and Maria Brink on the same album. It is kind of cool when you go back through the catalog, even through this brand new album. You see all the different collaborations Chris has done over the year. Chris, very popular with his fellow musicians, always seems to be doing some cool things. Something notable that I didn't mention earlier on the brand new album, the duet he does with Corey Taylor, amongst my favorite songs on the entire album. Break the Cycle, that's legitimately, I think we can say, a deep track, really fast, really intense. And again, one of the things I really appreciate about Motionless in White is that a lot of bands get out of the gates flying, and then they kind of run out of steam about halfway through an album, and the back half of the album seems a lot like filler. Over and over and over, Motionless always seems to have a ton of material, and some of the best songs on the album on the backside of the album, and this is no exception. Wasp. Such a cool song. And I think this is a unique song in the entire Motionless category, quite a departure from their usual stuff. I don't know how to describe it other than, kind of a throwback to some of the skinny tie bands back in the 80s, but with a heavier feel. Really good stuff. Dead AF. Once again, really tough call between Dead AF and Dead AF 2. Again, I gotta go with the sequel, but I do believe both of these songs are top 10 songs in the catalog. Love them both to death. Really kind of back to Chris being, we talked about having an attitude, but he also has some really fun songs. These are two of the funnest songs in the catalog. I do also really like the kind of the cool digital echoey effect that they have on Chris's voice for emphasis on this song. Really good. And final dictum, this whole album smells like victory. So really love that song as well. Just, again, I could talk about every song on this album. It is just chock full of some of the best Motionless in White songs. Really dig it. And again, a little bit surprised, but it had to be number one. So congratulations to Chris and the boys. Motionless and White has been producing excellent, memorable music for 2 decades. Everybody gets one stinker. I didn't, again, but the rest of the collection, it's just amazing how consistently good Motionless and White has been. And that's our show. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell. We try to do a video every Tuesday night. We'd love to have you. So in the meantime, this is the Metal Dude signing off. Take care.